India has stressed its red lines will not be breached in terms of agriculture when it comes to its newly announced trade agreement with America. With a lack of clarity hanging over the ins and outs of the agreement, Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has moved to alleviate farmers' fears when it comes to the pending American deal.
This agreement will provide comparative advantage to our exporters. Sectors related to agriculture have been taken care of. In the context of future action, both sides will work together to complete the necessary technical and legal procedure so that its full potential can be realized. I would like to reiterate that the energy security of Indians remains the government's top priority. In the context of future trade opportunities, India and the US are becoming complementary economies. India's exports to the US will increase in several sectors.
India has reaffirmed that they are not going to make any kind of compromise on the agriculture and the dairy sector when it comes to their trade deal with the United States. And Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has also told the Parliament that these sectors will remain protected because millions of farmers are employed in both of these sectors, and that is why it is economically and politically sensitive. Now, this clarity from New Delhi is in contrast with what Washington is actually sending a message, and the White House has claimed that now Prime Minister Narendra Modi is actually committed $500 billion in investment in the US, which also includes agricultural products. However, Washington has also not clarified on what these agricultural products would be.
India committed to not only no longer purchasing Russian oil, but buying oil from the United States, also perhaps from Venezuela too, which we know will now have a direct benefit on the United States and the American people. And in addition to that, Prime Minister Modi committed to $500 billion of investments into the United States, including for transportation, for energy, and for agricultural products as well. So this is another great trade deal.
Now, consider all of this against the fact that India's total merchandise imports were worth approximately $720 million in the year 2024. And what's more is that India's total trade with almost major partners doesn't even come close to the $500 billion mark that the White House is actually projecting right now. And this contrast actually becomes clearer when you look at India's trade volumes with other key economies as well. So what is more interesting here is that Delhi has been steadily expanding its trading relations with other nations as well. And there's bilateral trade with China, for instance, which hit a record of $155.6 billion in the year 2025, which is a growth that has been projected by 12% year on year. Also, Indian exports to China also rose 10%, highlighting a deep commercial codependence. And here, let's take a look at what the Chinese ambassador to India has to say.
The bilateral relations have continued to improve. In 2025, bilateral trade between China and India reaches a record high of $155.6 billion, registering a year-on-year growth of over 12%. India's exports to China grew by 9.7%, demonstrating the vast potential of economic and trade cooperation between the two countries.
Now, remember, India has assumed the BRICS presidency this year, and BRICS nations are increasingly reducing their dependence on the US dollars, which is exactly why they're also doing the trade business in their local currencies. And this trend directly challenges Western financial dominance and explains actually why India is carefully balancing between partnerships and trading partnerships, especially with the West as well as other countries. countries. For India, BRICS is not about choosing sides. It's about expanding its option while keeping trading relations with the West and also deepening its trade relations with China, Russia, and other global South countries on its own terms. And this is what makes the decision taken by New Delhi about agricultural dairy sector and about its strengthening ties with other countries, including China, a very strategic decision and not a contradiction.